There's someone in your life right now, and something between you two hasn't been said yet. You feel it when they walk into the room. Not butterflies, something quieter than that. A shift. The air changes. You catch yourself breathing differently. And when your eyes meet, there's this fraction of a second, just a heartbeat really, where neither of you looks away. And in that tiny pause, something passes between you. Something honest. Something that neither of you has found the words for yet. And here's what keeps you up at night. You're almost certain they feel it too, but then the doubt creeps in. Maybe you're imagining it. Maybe you're reading too much into a glance, a pause, a laugh that lasted a little longer than it should have. Maybe you're projecting your own feelings onto someone who's just being kind. And so you say nothing. You hold it inside. You keep that door closed because the risk of being wrong feels unbearable. But what if you're not wrong? Carl Jung spent his life studying the invisible forces that move between people, the things we sense before we understand, the connections that begin long before words do. And according to his work, when two people are drawn to each other at a deep level, it doesn't stay hidden. It can't. The unconscious has its own language, and it speaks whether you give it permission or not. Today we're going to walk through 5 psychological signs rooted in Jung's work that suggest the attraction between you isn't one-sided, that what you're feeling isn't fantasy or wishful thinking, but a genuine energetic exchange that's already happening beneath the surface. And some of what you'll hear might startle you because you've already felt it. You just didn't know what it meant. So stay with me, because if there's someone on your mind right now, and I think there is, you may be about to understand something you've been carrying in silence for a very long time. And before we begin, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Tell me, is there someone right now that you can't quite get out of your mind? I'd love to know if what we explore today resonates with you. Sign 1. The silence between you isn't empty, it's full. Most people fear silence. In conversation, in a room together, in a pause that stretches just a beat too long, the instinct is to fill it. Say something, anything, crack a joke, check your phone, look away. Silence feels awkward with most people because when the words stop, you suddenly become aware of the distance between you, the gap, the separateness. But with this person, something different happens. The silence doesn't feel like absence. It feels like presence. You're sitting together, maybe not even talking, and instead of discomfort, there's this warmth, this strange sense of being held by the quiet itself. You don't need to perform. You don't scramble for words. You just exist in the same space, and somehow that is enough. Jung would have understood this immediately. He believed that the deepest connections between people don't happen through language at all. They happen through what he called the collective unconscious, a shared layer of the psyche where symbols, archetypes, and primal energies live beneath the surface of everyday awareness. When two people are connected at this level, words become almost secondary. The real conversation is happening underneath. Think about it. You can talk for hours with a stranger and feel nothing. And you can sit in total silence with this one person and feel everything. That's because what's passing between you isn't information. It's energy. It's recognition. Something in your unconscious is reaching towards something in theirs, and the silence is simply the space where that exchange is allowed to happen without interference. And here's what makes this a sign that the attraction is mutual. Comfortable silence requires two people. You cannot create it alone. If only one person felt safe in that quiet, the other would fidget, fill the gap, pull away. But when the silence holds, when it actually feels nourishing, it means both nervous systems have relaxed into each other's presence. Both of you, without saying a word, have agreed that this space between you is safe. Pay attention to this. Most people will never notice it because they're too busy talking. But if you felt it, if you know exactly what I'm describing right now, that isn't ordinary. Jung would say, your souls are already in dialogue. The conscious mind just hasn't caught up yet. And you know what's remarkable? This kind of silence often becomes the moment people look back on later and say, that's when I knew. Not a grand declaration, not a dramatic kiss, but a quiet afternoon where nothing happened and everything changed. Sign 2. You keep appearing in each other's lives at moments that feel almost impossible to explain. There's a concept that Jung introduced that most people have heard of, but very few truly understand. Synchronicity. It's often reduced to meaningful coincidence, but that description barely scratches the surface of what Jung actually meant. Jung observed that sometimes events in the outer world align with inner psychological states in ways that cannot be explained by cause and effect. There is no logical chain connecting them, and yet the timing is so precise, so emotionally charged, that dismissing it as random chance feels dishonest. Now think about this person. How many times have you run into them at unexpected moments? You're thinking about them, and suddenly your phone lights up with their name. You're having a hard day, and somehow they appear, not because you called them, not because you planned it, but as if something invisible arranged the meeting. Or maybe you both discover you've been reading the same book, listening to the same song, going through the same inner struggle at the exact same time without ever discussing it. The rational mind wants to explain this away. Coincidence, frequency bias. You're just noticing because you're paying attention. And maybe sometimes that's true. But Jung would push back. He would ask, why does this particular coincidence move you so deeply? Why does it feel like it means something? Because synchronicity isn't really about the external event. It's about the inner resonance the event creates. When something happens that perfectly mirrors your internal state, especially involving another person, it suggests that both of you are operating on the same psychic frequency. Your unconscious minds are entangled in ways your conscious awareness can't fully map, and this is the part that matters. Synchronicity involving another person is almost never one-directional. If the universe or the unconscious, or whatever you want to call it, keeps placing this person in your path at exactly the right moment, it's doing the same thing to them. They're also thinking of you when you suddenly appear. They're also startled by the timing. They also feel that strange shiver of recognition when your paths cross yet again. Jung said that synchronicity is the unconscious mind's way of communicating what the conscious mind refuses to say. So if you keep colliding with this person in ways that logic can't explain, consider the possibility that something deeper is at work. Not fate in the romantic fairy tale sense, but a genuine alignment of two inner worlds that are trying to find each other. And ask yourself honestly, how many coincidences does it take before you stop calling them coincidences? Sign 3. They bring out a version of you that surprises you, sometimes a version you didn't even know existed. This is where Jung's psychology becomes truly profound and perhaps a little unsettling. Because this sign isn't always comfortable. In fact, it can be deeply confusing. You notice that around this person, you act differently, and not in the way you might expect. It's not that you become more charming or more polished. Sometimes it's the opposite. You become more raw, more honest, more exposed. Things come out of your mouth that you didn't plan to say. Emotions surface that you normally keep buried. You laugh louder, or you get quiet in a way you don't with anyone else. Parts of you that have been dormant for years suddenly wake up in their presence. Jung called this the activation of the anima or animus. In his framework, every person carries within them an inner image of the opposite energy. For men, this is the anima, the feminine aspect of the male psyche. For women, it's the animus, the masculine aspect of the female psyche. These are not just abstract ideas. They are living, breathing forces inside you that shape who you're attracted to, what you long for, and who you become when certain people enter your life. When you meet someone who closely mirrors your anima or animus, something extraordinary happens. They don't just attract you on the surface. They reach into the hidden rooms of your psyche and switch on lights that have been off for years. Suddenly, you're feeling things you haven't felt since you were young. Before the world taught you to guard yourself, before you learned to be careful, before the walls went up, and this is crucial. This process is mutual. If this person activates something deep in you, you are almost certainly doing the same to them. The anima and animus work like mirrors. When one is stirred, it stirs the corresponding image in the other person. They're also feeling things around you they can't quite explain. They're also surprised by who they become in your presence. They're also lying awake at night, wondering why you, of all people, make them feel so much. But here's the part most people miss. This activation isn't always pleasant. Sometimes the version of yourself that emerges around this person is messy, vulnerable, even a little frightening. You might find yourself feeling jealous when you have no right to be, or possessive, or unusually tender in a way that makes you feel exposed. Old wounds might surface. Childhood patterns might replay. You might catch yourself behaving in ways that seem irrational, and you can't understand why this one person has this effect on you. That's the shadow at work again, intertwined with the anima or animus. When someone reaches that deep into your psyche, they don't just touch the beautiful hidden parts. They touch everything. The pain, the longing, the old stories you thought you'd outgrown. And if that sounds overwhelming, know this. It's actually a sign of profound connection. Surface attractions don't do this. Only the deep ones reach into the shadow. Only the real ones make you feel like you're being turned inside out. So if this person makes you feel more alive, more confused, more yourself, and more unknown to yourself, all at the same time, pay attention. Your psyche is responding to something real. And if they seem equally stirred in your presence, equally raw, equally unable to play it cool, then what's happening between you is not casual. It is the unconscious minds of two people recognizing each other. And that kind of recognition, Jung would tell you, is exceedingly rare. Sign 4. You dream about them, and the dreams feel different from ordinary dreams. Let's enter territory that most people don't talk about openly. But if you've experienced it, you'll know immediately what I mean. You dream about this person, and not in the usual, forgettable, scattered way that most dreams work. These dreams have a different quality. They're vivid. They linger long after you wake up. Sometimes they're not even dramatic, just the two of you sitting together, walking somewhere, looking at each other. But the feeling in the dream is so intense, so real, that when you open your eyes, you have to take a moment to remember where you are. The boundary between the dream and your waking life feels paper thin. Jung took dreams more seriously than almost any psychologist before or since. For him, dreams were not random firings of a tired brain. They were direct communications from the unconscious, messages wrapped in symbol and emotion that the conscious mind had been unable or unwilling to process during waking hours. When someone appears in your dreams repeatedly, and especially when the dreams carry that unmistakable emotional charge, Jung would say your unconscious is trying to tell you something important about your relationship to that person. Not necessarily something literal, not a prediction, but a truth about the psychic bond between you. And here's where it gets fascinating. Jung documented cases where two people who shared a deep connection reported parallel dream imagery. Not identical dreams, but dreams that rhymed, that carried the same emotional tone, the same symbolic landscape, as if the unconscious minds of both people were processing the same material from different angles. You may never know if this person dreams about you too. People don't usually share these things, especially when the feelings between them are still unspoken. But consider this. If your unconscious is working this hard to process your connection to them, if your dream life has essentially recruited this person as a central figure in your inner world, it is very likely that a similar process is happening within them. The unconscious does not fixate on empty connections. It circles around what matters. It returns again and again to the relationships that carry real psychic weight. And there's another layer to this. Sometimes the dreams aren't about the other person directly. Sometimes you dream about symbols that represent them, a particular place, an animal, the feeling of warmth or light. Jung would say this is the unconscious working at an even deeper level, translating the person into the archetypal language of your psyche. They've become more than a person in your inner world. They've become a symbol, an image charged with meaning that your soul is trying to integrate. If you wake up from these dreams with a feeling you can't shake, a longing, a warmth, a strange certainty that dissolves as the day goes on, only to return the next night, your unconscious is telling you something. And the message is simple. This connection is real. It exists at a level deeper than your waking mind has been willing to acknowledge. Trust the dream. It sees what you're still afraid to see with open eyes. Sign 5. You feel recognized by them. Not just seen, but known. This is the deepest sign of all, and perhaps the hardest to put into words. But let me try. There's a difference between someone looking at you and someone seeing you. Most people in your life look at you. They see your face, your clothes, your social role, your persona. They interact with the version of you that you present. And that's fine. That's how most human relationships work. We meet each other's masks and we call it connection. But with this person, something else happens entirely. When they look at you, you feel it land somewhere deeper, not on your surface, but behind it, as if their gaze passes through the mask, through the persona, through the carefully constructed version of yourself, and arrives at something underneath, something you've been protecting for a very long time, and instead of feeling exposed or threatened, you feel relieved. Jung spent much of his career exploring how people construct their social identities, the persona, and how this construction creates a fundamental loneliness. Because when people only know your persona, they don't really know you. And you walk through life with this quiet ache, this sense that no one has actually met the real you. You wonder sometimes if anyone ever will. You wonder if the real you is even something another person could recognize. And then this person walks into your life, and without asking, without trying, without doing anything dramatic at all, they see past it. They respond not to the version of you that everyone else interacts with, but to the one hiding behind it. They laugh at the things you say under your breath, the ones you didn't think anyone heard. They notice when your mood shifts before you said a word. They ask you questions that somehow land exactly where you needed someone to reach. And you think, how do they do that? How do they know? Jung would say, this is the anima and animus at work again, but at their highest expression. When two people connect at the level of their innermost selves, the unconscious recognition between them bypasses ordinary social processing entirely. You're not evaluating each other. You're not performing for each other. You're simply being witnessed by someone whose psyche resonates at the same depth as yours. And this is a two-way experience. You cannot feel genuinely recognized by someone who doesn't also feel recognized by you. That kind of deep seeing is not a one-directional act. It's a circuit. It requires both people to be open, both people to be present, both people to have dropped their guard enough for the real self to be visible. So ask yourself, do you see them too? Not just their surface, not just what they show the world, but the quiet, private, unguarded version of them that lives underneath all of it? Do you notice things about them that other people seem to miss? Do you sense their moods, their struggles, their unspoken thoughts? If the answer is yes, then the recognition is mutual, and that, more than any other sign, is the one that changes everything. Because in a world full of people who see your mask, finding someone who sees your soul is not something the psyche takes lightly. It clings to it. It moves toward it. It rearranges your entire inner world around it, and they are doing the same, even if neither of you has spoken a word about it. Now let me bring all of this together, because these 5 signs are not isolated events. They are parts of a single process. The comfortable silence, the synchronicities, the activation of hidden parts of yourself, the dreams, the feeling of being truly known. When you experience these things with one person, especially when you experience several of them together, what you're witnessing is not a crush. It's not infatuation. It's not wishful thinking. It is what Jung would call a meeting of the unconscious. A moment where two people's inner worlds have found each other across all the noise, all the distance, all the defenses that normally keep human beings apart. And these meetings are not common. Most people go through their entire lives experiencing maybe 1 or 2 connections at this depth. Some never experience it at all. So if you're experiencing it right now, with that person who just came to mind, the one you've been thinking about this entire time, understand the weight of what that means. Your unconscious is not confused. It doesn't make mistakes about this kind of thing. It has selected this person for a reason, not randomly, not superficially, but because something in them corresponds to something essential in you, and theirs has selected you in exactly the same way. But here comes the part that might be difficult to hear. Recognizing the connection is not the same as knowing what to do with it. Jung was very clear about this. The unconscious shows us the truth, but it doesn't make our decisions for us. You still have to choose. You still have to find the courage to let this person know what you feel, or at the very least, to stop pretending you don't feel it. And I know why that's terrifying. Because if this connection is as deep as your unconscious is telling you it is, then the stakes are real. This isn't a casual interest you can shrug off if it doesn't work out. This is someone who has touched the hidden rooms of your psyche, someone who has activated your shadow, your anima or animus, your deepest longing to be known. Admitting that to yourself is hard enough. Admitting it to them feels like stepping off a cliff. But consider the alternative. What happens if you say nothing? What happens if you let this connection remain unspoken, buried under politeness, buried under fear, buried under the comfortable fiction that you're just friends or just colleagues or just two people who happen to cross paths? Jung warned about this. He said that what we refuse to bring into consciousness doesn't just disappear. It goes underground. It becomes restlessness. It becomes that ache at 3 in the morning. It becomes the phantom feeling that something in your life is missing, something important, something you almost had but let slip through your fingers because you were afraid. And years from now, if you look back on this time and wonder what would have happened if you had spoken, that wondering will carry more weight than you can imagine right now. I'm not telling you what to do. That's not my place, and it wasn't Jung's either. He didn't tell people how to live. He showed them how to see. And what he would want you to see right now is this. The connection you feel is not imaginary. The signs are not coincidences. And the person on the other end of this invisible thread is feeling it too, even if they are just as afraid as you are. So what do you do with that? Maybe you start small. Maybe you let the silence between you speak a little louder. Maybe you hold their gaze for 1 extra second the next time your eyes meet. Maybe you stop pretending you don't notice the electricity when your hands accidentally touch. Maybe you say something simple, not a grand confession, but something honest. Something like, I feel like there's something between us, and I think you feel it too. And maybe they'll look at you with relief in their eyes. The same relief you feel when someone finally names the thing you've been carrying alone. Because here's the deepest truth in all of Jung's work. The soul does not want to hide forever. It wants to be seen. It wants to be met. It wants to step out from behind the mask and find another soul standing there, equally brave, equally trembling, equally real. And sometimes all it takes is one person saying out loud what both of you already know in silence. So let me leave you with this. If you've been watching this and one face has been present in your mind the whole time, that is not an accident. Your unconscious brought them here into this moment, into this awareness for a reason. And their unconscious, wherever they are right now, whatever they're doing, is holding an image of you with the same quiet intensity. You already feel it. You felt it for a while. The only question left is whether you'll trust what your soul has been trying to tell you. Jung said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And sometimes becoming who you truly are means letting another person close enough to see it happen. Don't wait too long. If this resonated with you, if you felt something shift inside while listening, I'd love for you to leave a comment and tell me which sign hit the hardest. Was it the silence, the synchronicities, the dreams, or that feeling of being truly known? Share your experience, because I promise you, someone else watching right now needs to hear that they're not alone in feeling this. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care of your soul.